Greetings, adventurers. My name is Kramer, and you are probably looking at me like, what are you doing? That is the most fantasy-style armor setup I have ever seen. Nothing about it is historical. You're right. But what I've discovered is that Fantasy Barbarians kind of got something right, and that this does work, and to some degree it is practical, and it does make sense. And I ended up coming to that conclusion after taking off all of my armor because of the problems that I had. So we're gonna go over my Rohirrim kit, which has a dedicated video to it right here, but we're gonna go over how it actually worked at a LARP event with actual combat with real people, because no matter how much testing I do, it's never gonna be the same as like the actual heat of combat, because anything can happen there. We're gonna go over the issues with my Rohirrim kit that I had, and then how I eventually dumbed it down into this and was much better off. And there is historical precedent to this. You just can't look to the medieval period because it's the Romans, it's the gladiators. Gladiators did this, some of them. That's my excuse. But trust me, I feel a little bit weird too. So this is the full regalia when I wanted to have like maximum armor points at this event. And I do apologize for the leather ASMR if you're getting it. There's really no way around that for me. The mic's gonna end up picking something up. So let's go ahead and break down, so I can get out of this again, what the problems were with this. The problems that I encountered, starting with the helmet. I love this helmet. I worked really, really hard on it. I think it looks great. I sort of saved it. I didn't wear it through the whole event. I was saving it for like that final epic moment on the last day where I like knew I was gonna like come out in full armor, like with the helmet on and have my Rohirrim moment, and I did. But even when it's tied here at the front, there's so much open space here at the back, which is fixable. It's just a problem that I had, that it started to like get knocked in front of my face, and I fell backwards because I had my legs taken out from under me, and I had to take it off. I like just knocked it off the back of my head, like using my hand, and then I picked it up later because it was just getting in the way. I had a similar problem with this character where the hat also got in my way, so maybe I'm just not meant to put things on my head, or I'm doing it incorrectly or something, but I consistently have the problem of having things that I put there fall off while I'm fighting and then get into my eyes. Okay, so this shield actually functioned great, and I put a little strap here on the back, put a knot in it so it would be mostly the right length for me. And if I wanted to fight with the strap on, I would just pull the knot so that it comes loose, then I have a bit more room. But more often than not, I took the shield off if I wanted to use it, and then just like held the knot on the back of the shield like this. So this worked great. It's 25 inches in diameter, and I got it because it's sort of the same shape and dimensions as Boromir's shield, so I wanted to test it, but it is big enough for me to stand in a shield wall and overlap on either side, left over right. So that was pretty cool. Didn't have issues with this unless I was wearing the full armor and I wanted to put this on. Then I ran into issues with it getting caught on the pauldrons, but it never got me killed. We'll put it that way. So the main armor pieces here, I have the breastplate, I have the pauldrons, I have these, van braces, and then I have the gambeson underneath. And functionally, it worked fine. Nothing really got in my way, nothing hindered me. I was able to move more or less efficiently. I do feel a lot more restricted than I do when I'm not wearing it. I prefer not wearing the armor. I feel like I'm more capable. I still prefer buckles. The buckles weren't getting in the way. They were easier than laces for me to like put on by myself. The problem is that they are still very much like laced bracers, like bracers. We know they're not really medieval, but van braces are supposed to point onto your arm. These don't. I can easily fix that, but they do sort of slide, so I ended up taking them off for a lot of the time just because I found them to be too much of a hindrance for my own mobility, and they didn't provide enough of an armor bonus for them to be worth it. So I took those off eventually. So during the sort of main battle against the orcs, which happened in the mid-afternoon, so it was hot, the sun was still out, and I was in full kit because I figured that was going to be like my epic moment, and it was epic. But what I learned is that either through lack of conditioning or just because I'm setting myself up for failure, I had to take all of it off. I fought for about 15 minutes or so, and then I went back to camp. The fight was dying down, and I drank some water, and then I took everything off because it was so hot. The weight was fine, the mobility was fine. The problem was the leather plus the black gambeson traps so much heat, I like couldn't get enough air into my lungs, and that was the biggest problem that I encountered with this, is that it's just so hot. Do you think I look hot? that was classy and you know it. So I stripped absolutely everything off and thought about going like essentially full Highlander mode, just no armor at all. If I die, and just have the big shield. Because, like, look at this thing. If there's one thing I noticed through sparring matches and through the combat in the mass battles, if there's one thing I noticed, it's that when I'm standing like this, no one's hitting me in the chest, like ever. I don't think I ever got hit in the chest once. So why am I wearing the armor there? For like no reason. Yes, it looks cool. Yes, I feel epic and I feel powerful when I'm wearing it. But I have this big shield. I'm at a very low risk of ever getting hit in the places where I'm wearing armor. And kind of the point of armor is to protect the places where you're most likely to get hit. So I feel like I failed in like a fundamental planning of this, because the places where I got hit the most often in the sparring matches and in duels, and then even in the main combats, the big line battles, the places that were targeted the most and where I got hit the most were my legs, which have no armor, so not very helpful at all, and in my forearm, because as much as I try to keep my forearm guarded when I'm attacking people with my shield, it's just a very easy target because it's the thing that's coming towards you and is exposed if I'm not doing my job properly. So I got hit here an awful lot. So I essentially decided to try a different method. The Barbarian method, the Gladiator method, the asymmetrical Pauldron method. And I have mixed feelings about that. So ultimately, what I ended up with in my stripped down version was this. I took off the gambeson. I pretty much never put it back on. I don't think I ever put it back on again once I took it off because it was just simply too hot. There was not really a reason to have it. Didn't provide a good armor bonus. It's just not worth it. And I took off the chest plate. This entire arm is now no longer armored because I don't need it. I have the shield. Why would I wear armor? That's unnecessary. And I bulked up the armor on this arm by doubling up my vambraces. I have a laced vambrace underneath and a buckled vambrace on top, so I had extra protection there. And I kept the pauldron on this side on the baldric, which I like. I'm keeping the baldric. It works fantastic. I love it. It's super versatile, as we can see. I literally just used rope and tied this thing to the shoulder strap, and it works fine. It holds fine. There's plenty of mobility. And that meant that not only do I have a lot more torso mobility, but given the stance that I prefer, which is a more forward thing like this, or even if I were to just come with a sort of A-frame stance like this, when I'm attacking forward, the side that is being presented to my opponent, unless I wanted to like do some sort of crazy stuff, which I never got the chance to do because it just takes too long, and everyone's weapons are super light, so this is heavy, so I was at a speed disadvantage. But it means that my entire arm that I'm presenting to my opponent is armored, and I'm pretty much never gonna get hit in the torso. And the reason I didn't have leg armor was because ideally, you know, like if you're just having to focus on one person at a time, like in a duel situation, someone swings at your legs, you can just sort of step out of the way. The problem is when you're locked in a shield wall with a whole bunch of other people and your goal is to defend each other as well, you can't just like take a step back and like leave the shield wall if your legs get attacked. So you either get hit or what you do, what I learned from a gentleman named Eski, who was a fantastic fighter. Eski, you're awesome. Instead of like trying to drop like that, which I instinctively want to do even though it doesn't make any sense, he was just like kneel. Just like take a knee, get to the ground and block your feet that way if you have to, or just use your sword. Which kind of makes me think that if we're talking in an adventuring context and you're thinking about what sort of armor your character would wear before you've decided whether or not you're going to use a shield, just decide to use a shield and then figure out the armor later, because this is just so much better. Even if this were like made out of real wood, which it clearly isn't, based on the way that I'm just swinging it around. Even if this were made of real wood, it would be easier to just pick this up and defend yourself than it would be like have to wake up off the floor and like put your armor on. Just get a shield. Shields are so good. Shields are OP. Use shields. Or when I'm just wearing the shield across my back so I'm not having to carry it all over the place with me, it's knotted up here so that it hangs a little higher. But it is still easy to sort of grab, and I can pull the knot loose with a little bit of finagling. Haven't quite figured out the system that works yet. But getting it on and off is almost a little bit like taking on and off a rifle sling. You just sort of swim your hand out like that, or if you wanted to put it back on, you just sort of swim right through it. And because I'm wearing less armor, it doesn't get caught on all the buckles and straps from the pauldrons and the back of the cuirass and all that stuff. It just very quickly comes off, and then everything deploys easily. And that's obviously something that you can drill over and over again just to get even better at it. It can also be worn just across the one shoulder, which I did a lot of the time, and the knot provides this sort of very pleasant way of keeping it in place without having to like grab it or wrap it around your fingers or something. You can just like brace the knot in between your index finger and your thumb, and it gives this very pleasant hand rest. And then from there, it's very quick to deploy weapons. Just a really practical thing that if I were wearing the pauldron on this shoulder, so I'll demonstrate on this shoulder. If I were to try to do that here on this side, there's all sorts of issues with it getting trapped underneath the pauldron or like on the van braces because they take up more space. It's a lot harder to slide through stuff like that. But with the open side, because you don't need to be armored because you have a shield, it's just much easier to carry it around that way, which when you're talking about adventuring, so much of your time is going to be spent walking from place to place and not really fighting too much. So for me, the ease of use and the ease of transportation, coupled with a decent amount of protection for what you're anticipating you're going to face, that's the most like important thing, not just like being able to tank the most hits. Because ideally you're gonna have a healer too. Have a healer, have a full party. That's why the parties exist. But I didn't figure this out until pretty much the last day. So the rest of the time when I wanted to wear armor, I kind of just wore the gambeson, and I didn't really have any armor at all. I think this is much better than not wearing armor because you're armored in the places where you need to be. But for the rest of the event, I pretty much just walked around like a civilian with my sword and my shield with no armor at all. And I still looked pretty cool because I had a Ruana cloak. So I am not wearing a whole lot at the moment. I just have my pants at a lower level of costuming. Pretty much no one's ever gonna notice your pants, especially if you have a long, nice tunic. I think this is the Arnaud tunic from Bergschneider, available with the link in the description. But I really wanted to highlight this, which is a new Ruana cloak that was sent to me by an Etsy seller called Saracen LLC. And I've been testing it out for the last couple of months just to see how it's holding up to more than just wearing it as a costume. And it's actually held up fantastic. They have a lot of available different colors, and they also have the option to either have it single layer or double layer like this one is, so you can have sort of an accent color, which I think just looks fantastic. These are 100% cotton, so that's just something to be aware of. If that is not what you're looking for, you may be looking for linen, you may be looking for wool, because they all have different properties. But I am happy to say that the cotton of this has a very tight knit weave, so it is waterproofable. I have tested this at the event that I just went to, and it held up great even in the rain. I stayed dry, and it was beating water. The seam work on it is very professionally done, so all the seams are of course on the inside if you're getting the double folded layer, so that you're not getting any weird raw edges. And even the top here, it's folded over nicely so that you have this sort of cuff, and it all just looks very clean. I did have a slight issue, very slight issue, easily fixable, where the seam that was up top here started to come undone. It must have just been a loose knot or something like that. So I was able to hand stitch that back myself, and it's held up absolutely fine. And the fabric does actually drape correctly. There are issues that I've had with like 100% wool Ruana cloaks that are like that thick blanket style wool where they sort of like box out because the fabric has too much structure, and I feel like this sort of doesn't have that problem. I think it looks really, really nice. And there is also an option to add a brooch in with your purchase, so everything all arrives together. The cloak pins that it comes with are like this, or at least they were when I was sent my version. And this is a very decent size. Something that's going to help keep things out of the way. It's obviously going to damage the weave of the fabric if you are consistently using it in that one place, but as far as I know, these are historically accurate sized cloak pins, whereas something with a smaller needle is going to be a later time period. So if you'd like to check out Saracen LLC, the link is going to be down in the description there. I apparently helped inspire the startup of the company, which is always very flattering to hear. So go ahead and give them some love if you're looking to purchase a Ruana cloak because you don't want to make one or you don't know how to make one, and you'll be helping out a small American company as well. So check them out with the link in the description, and thank you to Saracen LLC for sending me this awesome cloak. There is a little bit of historical precedent to an armor setup like this. I'm thinking of gladiators. There are some types of gladiators that simply armored the one side of their body because that was the side most likely to be attacked, and then they essentially fought just in their clothes or without any clothes on at all, I guess. And so I'm not really sure where my mixed feelings are coming from, because there is some historical precedent. It's just earlier than the medieval period. But I have a tendency to think, oh, well, the single pauldron attached via shoulder strap is a very fantasy thing. Like, this is not the historical, at least medieval way to wear pauldrons. But I keep thinking back to the gladiators. People did it, and it clearly worked, and they would have had to do it this way. It does hold securely. It's fine. Never had an issue with it. But to me, it just seems very fantasy, and I want to be as historically accurate as possible, but on the other hand, it works. So if I stop thinking about the historical accuracy and instead focus on the practicality as my way into the realism and into the immersion, stripping down into this, if it works and it's easier for me, is kind of the most immersive thing I could have done, now that I think about it, rather than like just stick it out in the armor because I wanted to look cool. This functions better. I feel a lot more athletic. I feel a lot more agile. And I'm a small guy, I'm athletic, but I'm short. I don't have a lot of body mass to throw around. So my strengths when it comes to fighting are probably my footwork and my speed. And the fact that I can get to lower angles may be a little bit easier, but trying to turn myself into a tank was maybe a little counterintuitive of me by donning all of that armor and like taking away the one bonus that I have, because it definitely isn't reach, especially with a sword like this. Like, I don't have a great amount of reach to work with. Since I'm shorter, I don't have as much like arm length to work with. So bogging myself down in all of that armor for the rule of cool kind of doesn't make any sense. So maybe it shouldn't even be a surprise that I decided to armor down. And there were lots of other fighters in my faction as well who clearly had already figured this out, because they had made really awesome looking armor. Shout out to Anya and Mikhail, who had really awesome armor. I don't know if they made it themselves, but it just looked really, really cool. And they had essentially just a breastplate with a pauldron attached on their sword arm, so that the shield could just do the rest of the work. They had already figured this out, both of them, so it took me a bit, but I figured it out too. And now I'm sharing it with you that while my sort of like pretentious, well, actually side is inclined to be like, well, pauldrons that attach via shoulder strap and don't like point onto the gambeson or whatever aren't like historically accurate to the medieval period, it works. So I can just get wrecked, I guess, because I don't know what I'm talking about. And so I'm glad I figured this sort of setup out, because it did actually make me feel really cool. I kind of felt like Kratos walking around. I felt a lot more confident in my own movement abilities, so that just really helped with the overall playing of my character. This is what the armor looked like during the main battle once it got to be nighttime. Again, I never put the gambeson back on. I've got the double bracer still in the pauldron. Just the only addition is now I'm wearing the leather breastplate again, and this was much easier to fight in. I was fighting in the shield wall, so I couldn't really do a whole lot with my short weapon. I kind of just stood there and defended stuff. But this also is a very viable thing for me. I want to upgrade the breastplate eventually, but this is, I think my problem was the gambeson. The gambeson just trapped so much heat. It didn't breathe. It absorbed a lot of sunlight. Both my gambesons are darker colors, so I think, I don't know. Gambesons are historical, they're great, they offer a lot of protection. They're just hot. They're just really hot. Geese. And the breastplate ultimately for that battle wasn't necessary, because again, I never got hit in the torso because of this guy, so it was mostly just for like insurance in case, which also is a use for armor. So it's probably ultimately better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But I sacrificed the gambeson and all of my left arm armor, because once again, this does all of that for you. So my Ruana Cloak video has been one of my most successful videos here on the channel to date. People really like that video. I really like the Ruana Cloak, which is why I made it. But a number of people commented that I completely ignored the Great Kilt, and that is a shame. And I'm beginning to think that you might be right. Now, I don't really know if I consider the kilt to actually be a cloak, which is why I didn't include that. But if you'd be interested in me getting my hands on a Great Kilt and then making a Ruana Cloak versus Great Kilt video, let me know in the comments below. So thank you for joining me today as we explore fantasy barbarian armor and why it's actually functional. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next video. And in the meantime, I'd like to wish you good luck on your adventures. Your very well thought out, very well kitted adventures. Good luck.